Welcome! This is the hashtag 15221 Untold Stories Project. My name is Jody Guy, and I am the director and the founder of Center for Civic Arts. It's a Wilkinsburg nonprofit whose mission is to invest in and transform existing cultural assets in ways that strengthen community. The hashtag 15221 Untold Stories Project, it's one such cultural asset that when celebrated and promoted, it elevates community pride, well-being, and it leaves a legacy for future generations. This project is supported in part by the Opportunity Fund and the Pennsylvania Council for Arts Creative Catalyst Program. This is a series of oral stories from members of churches who have witnessed historic events firsthand, big and small, not told by a historian, but told by one of Wilkinsburg's everyday heroes. With these stories, these oral stories, we are working to establish an archive of Wilkinsburg's African American histories which have gone largely undocumented until now. If you would like to support the hashtag 15221 Untold Stories Project, please visit our website, Center for Civic Arts. And thank you. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, Jody. How are you?
I'm so good. Listen, will you? You have so many good stories growing up, what life was like in Wilkinsburg. I guess that might have been in the 50s or 60s. And they were wonderful stories. Can you share one with us?
Sure. My earliest memories are of the street where I grew up, North Avenue, between Roland and Princeton Boulevard. We called it the Coal Road because it wasn't really paved. There were like old coal chips, but anyhow. And the neighborhood was, by some standards, not really integrated, but multicultural, I will say. And there were lots of kids from different age groups, but we all played together. The games, the older teenagers, the middle schoolers, and the younger kids, the elementary school kids. So we all went to school together. We played together. Our parents grew up, some of us, together. So everybody raised everybody else's kid. When I went to elementary school, my little friend, who was 3 weeks older than me, we were so close as babies together that they allowed us to be in the same room together, and it was just two of us. At that time, there weren't many black kids that went to my school, except for the kids that were in my neighborhood, the African American students. But my little friend and I were the only two African American children in kindergarten. And it was not a full day kindergarten, it's half day kindergarten. And I went to Allison School, which was a wonderful school, and great teachers. A few were a little different, but as a child, looking back on those experiences, some of them were a little, I would think, culturally insensitive. One incident that I will always remember is being in kindergarten and the teacher reading us a book. The book was Little Black Sambo. And she made comparisons to my little friend and me in terms of our hair texture, our skin color, and such. And for a 4.5-year-old, that was rather, looking back on it now, was rather traumatic. And even then, it was uncomfortable because she allowed the students, the white students, to touch us and feel our hair. My little friend's hair was coarser and longer, and mine was long but curly. My little friend was much darker than I. So making those kind of comparisons was scary. And the little white children that were in our kindergarten class, I think maybe they were a little, how could I say, taken aback by it. Well, when we went home from school, because we went half day in the morning, my mother asked me how was school, and I told her I didn't like what went on, and she asked me what happened, and I told her. See, I wasn't taught these kinds of things at home, you know. And my mother was very upset. She called my little friend's mother, and my little friend's mother was, oh, well, you know, didn't take it that seriously. But my mother called the principal. She had a meeting with the principal and the teacher. But that was my first introduction to being like something was different. We're all little 4.5, 5-year-olds going to kindergarten, and my mother didn't feel that that was an appropriate book to read, and especially having white children touch us. That was just not acceptable. Well, my little friend and I were the only two black children in our class until we got to maybe 3rd, 4th grade, and the teacher announced that we were getting another student, and he would be coming the next day. And oh, okay. And the next day, it was a little boy. He was black, and he was from his family had moved to Wilkinsburg from North Carolina. So it was just the 3 of us until 6th grade when we left elementary school to go to the junior high school. There was another incident. Our music teacher had all the children pick out songs to sing in front of the class to be critiqued in the afternoon. Well, I had picked out a song, and she said no, she didn't want me to sing that song. She wanted me to sing Camptown Racist, but she wanted me to sing it in a dialect that was, as an adult now, racist and unfamiliar to me. And I told my mother about it when I went home for lunch, and she said, you let her know that unless the whole class sings that song with you, you are not to sing that song. So I said, okay. We went back to school, class was usual, and then it was time to sing the songs. And she called on me to sing it, and I will never forget her name. She's probably dead now, and it's okay. Her name was Mrs. Holowasco. And I said, Mrs. Holowasco, my mother said I'm not to sing this song unless the whole class sings it with me. She said, you will sing this song. Okay. So I went back, sat down, and she called me up to sing, and she started off with the intro, and I just stood there. And I said, Mrs. Holowasco, my mother said I'm not to sing this song unless the whole class sings it with me. You will sing this song. And she started again. And I stood there and I said, Mrs. Holowasco, my mother said I am not to sing this song unless the whole class sings it with me. She said, you will sing the song. I said, I will not sing the song. She said, you will get an F. I said, gladly. And I went and sat down. Well, it was embarrassing. Some of the students were snickering. And that was rather hurtful. Those are the two incidences I remember from school. Of course, my mother again had to call the principal and had a meeting with the principal and the teacher. And that was kind of hurtful. And my friend, and we're still friends to this day, she remembers that incident. And she said, that was funny. I said, it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny at all. It was inappropriate. It was hurtful. And she set me up for ridicule. And the rest of the class was laughing. I said, you don't get it. But she remembers that. So moving on, when we got to 6th grade, time for us to graduate from 6th grade and move on to junior high school. And my little friend and I, they separated us. They felt we were too close. So, but we were still friends. And moving on to this day, when I see students who went to school with us, the first thing they will ask me, how's so-and-so? And I'm thinking, they thought that we were sisters or twins or whatever, but they never asked me about any other student. Always the black students that went to our elementary school that came later. And I really didn't socialize with them or grow up with them in our neighborhood, so I don't know. When's the last time you've seen so-and-so, Raymond, and this one and that one? I don't know. The last time was, I guess, when we graduated from high school. So that's kind of funny. But growing up in Wilkinsburg, I felt was a great community in terms of the stores, the activities in Wilkinsburg. I remember the band marching up Penn Avenue, our football games that were in the evening, the fireworks, in the winter being able to sled ride down the hill, just all those kinds of things. The other things that may have been segregated and racist, I learned as I got older. We were the same, but we were much different, and we were made to feel that way when it came to girls being permitted to become majorettes and cheerleaders and things like that. I had tried out for majorettes, and I had tried to get some of the black girls that were by this time in high school to join with me to try to at least try out. And they said, oh, they're not going to pick any of us. I said, well, if 10 of us at least tries out, they got to pick one of us. So just, try. And no, it was just me. And of course, I wasn't chosen, but it didn't matter to me. At least I tried. The only thing I did do, which wasn't, they couldn't kick me off, was to play tennis, because my chemistry teacher was the tennis coach. But anyhow, I think that I got a very good education at Wilkinsburg High School and through Wilkinsburg schools. My mother had gone to Wilkinsburg High School, and a lot of the teachers that she had when she was in school, I also had. So that was interesting. She was able to see who I had for English, who I had for biology, who I had for history, etc., etc. So that was kind of good. Wilkinsburg wasn't such a transient borough or little city until later on, where people were moving into Wilkinsburg because it had such a good school system. I remember that after I graduated, I guess the students were allowed to wear jeans and slacks to school. We never were allowed to wear, blue jeans or anything. We had to be dressed appropriately, and our teachers were dressed appropriately. They didn't look like they were working in a mill somewhere, So that set a certain standard for us, which I think prepared us for later on. And those are some of my fond memories of Wilkinsburg. I remember the stores being open in the evening, and it was relatively safe to walk around in Wilkinsburg, to ride our bikes and, just play as children. And those are my memories of Wilkinsburg as a child growing up.